Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here, and in this video we'll be taking a look at number 2 out of 4 commander decks that are coming out in this 40k Magic crossover set. This one is the Ruinous Powers, which represents all 4 of the Chaos Gods, Karn, Zinch, Nurgles, and Slaanesh. And again, looking through these cards, I'm really impressed with not just the artwork, but the mechanics they created, which I think really capture the chaotic energy of the Ruinous Powers. So let's get right into it. Starting off with the 2 commanders. The first, which is on the cover art of the box, is Abaddon the Despoiler. Total of 5 mana. He is a 5/5 with Trample, and he has a pretty powerful ability, Mark of Chaos Ascendant, which gives spells that you cast on your turn with mana value X or less Cascade, where X is the amount of life that your opponents have lost this turn. So this you can use after the combat phase. You can still play cards, right? And in Magic, for those who aren't aware, creatures also count as spells. So any of those cards that you play from your hand, essentially, other than lands, will be able to cascade, which allows you to reveal cards from the top of your deck and then play another spell for free that costs less than the spell that you just cast with Cascade. So a little bit complicated, but a whole lot of fun. And it does have this random element, which, again, I think fits the Chaos theme. I'm also just going to show you the equipment here, Draknien, which is Abaddon's Demon Sword. At 6 mana, it's a little expensive to play, but it does have an effect when it first enters the battlefield. You can exile one target creature, so just immediately remove that creature from the game. And then you can equip it for 2 mana to give the creature plus X plus 0, where X is equal to its power. So obviously the bigger it is, the stronger it will get. It also gets Menace, which means it can only be blocked by 2 or more creatures. The second option for commander we have in this deck is Bellacor the Dark Master, a powerful demon. And he is a 6/5 with flying for a total of 6 mana. And he's got 2 powerful abilities. When he first enters the battlefield, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of demons you control. And we'll be looking at how many demons there are immediately after this. So obviously strong synergy with those demons. And then Lord of Torment is the second ability, very powerful ability here, where anytime a demon comes into the battlefield under your control while Bellacor is in play, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So let's take a look at some of the demons that come in this deck. First of all, we have a demon artifact creature, the Venom Crawler. That's 4 mana for a 2/2 with lifelink, but it can get a lot bigger. Next up, we got the Plague Drone, which is 4 mana for a 3/3 with flying. And as a Rot Fly, it prevents your opponents from gaining life, and if they would gain life, they actually lose that much life instead. So yesterday we looked at the Tyranid deck, which didn't really have much life gain to speak of, so it wouldn't have much effect against that deck specifically, but they can be absolutely devastating against certain decks that revolve around life gain. Next up is the Chaos Defiler, another artifact demon construct. This is 5 mana for a 5/4 with Trample, and its ability Battle Cannon is a pretty fun one. So when it enters the battlefield or dies, you get to choose a non-land permanent on the field for each of those opponents, and then destroy just one of them at random. So in total, you'll be destroying 2 cards at random, so fun little ability there. Next up, we got the Seeker of Slaanesh, 4 mana for a 3/3 with haste, so it can attack the turn it comes into play, and it goads your opponents into attacking. They have to attack with at least 1 creature each combat if able. Next up is the Blood Crusher of Khorne, 4 mana for a 3/3 with trample, and this gives all of your other creatures trample as well, so powerful global ability there. We got the Herald of Slaanesh with a very powerful combo of abilities, 3 mana for 2/2, and it reduces the cost of demons you cast by 2 colorless mana, and also gives them haste. Very good card, very good ability for a cheap cost. We've got the Heralds of Zinch, which is 5 mana for 3/3 of flying and Cascade. This is the only demon with Cascade, but again with Abaddon, you can give any of your cards Cascade as long as you're dealing damage to your opponents. We got the Keeper of Secrets, who actually combos very well with Cascade cards. 6 mana for a 6/4 with First Strike and Haste. and Symphony of Pain. So whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, the Keeper of Secrets deals damage equal to that spell's cost to target opponent. So very powerful ability, again dealing direct damage to enemy players, and it combos with Cascade. Also, there are a few other cards in the deck that allow you to play cards from the graveyard, so it would combo with those as well. The second Greater Demon here, the Lord of Change, is 7 mana for 6/6 with flying and ward 3. And when it enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards. Pretty straightforward, but a very powerful ability. The third Greater Demon of Karn, the Bloodthirster, 6 mana for 6/6 with flying and trample. And then it has an ability that is more powerful the more opponents you are playing against. Because when it deals combat damage to a player, you untap it and get an additional combat phase. But it can't attack the same opponent twice. So, if you're playing against like 3 people, for example, you could hit one of them, untap this guy, hit another, untap it again, and then hit the other player as well. So pretty crazy. If you have a way of giving your other creatures like vigilance or untapping them, you could actually attack with all of your creatures as well. But in this deck, I think the Bloodthirster is probably the only one that will be able to be attacking multiple times per turn. And then for Nergo, we've got the Greater Demon here, the Great Unclean One. 5 mana for a 4/5, and it's got Reverberating Summons. So at the beginning of your end step, on your turn, each opponent loses 2 life. And then for each opponent who has less life than you, you get one of these 1/3 Plague Bearer tokens. Pretty weak little creature there, but we'll see cards that actually synergize with these little token creatures later on. You do have to make sure that your opponents have less life than you, which might be a little bit tricky because there are a number of cards in this deck that deal damage to yourself, but you do have some life gain as well. Alright, we got Nurgles Rot, which is a 1 mana, 1 black enchantment. This is a really useful card actually. It doesn't actually do anything to the creature, but when it dies, this gets to go back to your hand, so you can play it on a different creature, and you get one of those little Plague Bearer tokens. We got the Sloppity Bile Piper, 4 mana for 3/3, and Jolly Gut Pipes is its ability. You can pay 2 colorless and tap it to sacrifice a creature to give another creature card, the next one you cast this turn, Cascade. So this is, of course, best used when sacrificing those little, token creatures. So those Plague Bearers would be good fodder for this guy. Then we got the Demon Primark Mortarion. He's a 5/6 with flying for 6 mana, and his ability, Primark of the Death Guard. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay X mana. If you do, create X 2/2 black Astartes warrior creatures with menace. But the X can't be greater than the amount of life you lost this turn. So the more life that you lose on your turn, the more of these Chaos Space Marines you can summon. So you won't necessarily be able to use this every turn, but it does combo very well with this guy, the Tallyman of Nurgle, 3 mana for 2/3 with lifelink. And at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. If 7 more creatures died this turn, you instead draw 7 cards and lose 7 life. So there's no real middle ground there. You either just draw 1 or draw 7. But again, losing the life here does combo with Mortarion. Alright, getting into some of the Chaos Space Marines here, we've got the Aspiring Champion, 4 mana for a 3/3 with Menace. And when he deals combat damage to a player, you sacrifice him, then reveal cards, and then put a creature, the first creature you reveal, onto the battlefield. If it's a demon, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent, so potentially a really powerful ability if you can get a demon, especially one of those greater demons, onto the field. The tricky part might be actually getting him to deal the combat damage to the player. We've got a Chaos Terminator Lord here, 4 mana for a 3/3. Its ability, Lord of Chaos, gives another creature double strike until the end of turn. Can be quite useful, especially on this dude, Karn the Betrayer, 4 mana for a 5/1. Now you might be asking, why does he only have 1 toughness? Well, take a look at his abilities. The third one there, the Betrayer. If any damage would be dealt to Karn, prevent that damage, and an opponent of your choice gains control of it. So he just does not die to damage. And it's not just combat damage, it's any damage that is dealt to him. It just gets prevented. The funny thing is, he actually, pretty much everyone can enjoy using Karn, because, you know, he's going to go to an opponent, presumably, when he takes damage. When you lose control of Karn, you get to draw 2 cards. And then he has to attack or block each combat if able. So he's just like attacking every turn, no matter whose turn it is. So it looks like a pretty fun card, which could potentially benefit your opponents as well. But I mean, I think it kind of fits because I believe on the tabletop he can sometimes kill your own guys if he's too close to them. Next up is the Knight Rampager. It's an artifact creature. 5 mana for a 6/5 with Trample. This one also has to attack each turn if able. And it's kind of weird because you have to choose an opponent at random. So you might not necessarily be able to attack the opponent that you want to. But when it dies, it does deal 4 damage to a random opponent. So, interesting card there. And then we got the Noise Marine, 5 mana for a 3/2 with Cascade. And its secondary ability, Sonic Blaster, deals damage equal to the number of spells you cast this turn to any target. So, if you have like multiple cards with Cascade, you know, with like Abaddon, for example, on the field, this guy could potentially be dealing some damage. And then we have some cards that can come back from the dead, like these Pox Walkers, 3 mana for a 3/1 with Death Touch, which means it can kill anything it damages. And then the secondary ability, Curse of the Walking Pox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, so that will most often be from Cascade, you can return the Pox Walkers back to the battlefield tapped, so they go straight onto the field. Pretty nice ability. We got the Hellbrute, 5 mana for a 5/4 with haste. And then this one also comes back from the graveyard. You do have to exile another creature from your graveyard and pay the mana cost, but it does have haste, so it can attack immediately after you resummon it. And then we got Lucius the Eternal, 5 mana for a 5/3 with haste. And this guy is pretty interesting, again, with the ability to come back again and again. When he dies, you remove him from the game and choose a target creature an opponent controls, and when that creature dies, Lucius comes back, again with haste. And then this is just a really powerful card, the Mutalist Vortex Beast, 6 mana for a 6/6 with Trample. When it enters the battlefield, you flip a coin for each opponent, and if you win the flip, you draw a card. If you lose the flip, it deals 3 damage to that player. So a lot of coin flipping cards in Magic, I feel like it's a 50-50% chance of it just doing nothing, but here, it's a win-win situation. Then we got a few powerful enchantments. The Lost and the Damned is 3 mana, and whenever a land enters the battlefield from anywhere other than your hand, or you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, so again, from Cascade, you can create a 3/3 red spawn token, which you can see on the right. So again, another token generating card there, which combos with a lot of cards in the deck. We've got the Ruinous Powers. This is a fun one, 4 mana, and at the beginning of your upkeep on your turn, you choose an opponent at random, you exile the top card of that player's library, and then you can play that card, and it doesn't matter what colors its mana cost are. You can use any color of mana to pay for it, and then if you cast it, your opponent loses life equal to its mana value. So pretty crazy ability there. If it's a land, you can just play it for free, and your opponent doesn't lose any life. But yeah, you can steal potentially a really powerful card and deal damage to your opponent at the same time. Then we got Warstorm Surge here, 6 mana, so pretty expensive enchantment. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, deals damage equal to its power to any target. This also applies to any tokens that you might summon with other cards. And then we got the Horus Heresy, which is represented by this saga, which takes place over 3 turns. On the first turn, for each opponent, you gain control of a non-legendary creature of your choice, and those remain for as long as the Horus Heresy remains on the battlefield. So if someone destroys this, you will lose control of those creatures. And also, after the third turn, you have to sacrifice this, so you will lose control of them. Then, on the second turn that this is in play, you draw a card for each creature you control but don't own, so the ones that you just took control of. On the third turn, each player chooses a creature and you destroy that creature. So it's a fun little thematic card there. And we got a few more creatures here. These ones actually combo specifically with instants and sorceries. Now in the Tyranid deck there were very few of those instant or sorcery spells, but the Chaos deck relies heavily on them, and we're about to see some crazy combos here. So the Zangor Shaman of Zinch is 4 mana for 3/3 with flying, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you can copy the next instant or sorcery you cast this turn. The Exalted Flamer of Zinch, 4 mana for 2/4. It's got 2 abilities. The first one, Sorcerous Inspiration, allows you to return an instant or sorcery at random from your graveyard to your hand. Very nice. And then the Fire of Zinch deals 1 damage to each opponent every time you cast an instant or sorcery spell. Again, Zinch is all about, the magic and stuff, so this is very well fitting for these guys. We've got Magnus the Red, a legendary demon Primark. 5 mana for a 4/5 with flying. He also has 2 abilities. Unearthly Power reduces the cost of instants and sorceries by 1 for each creature token you control. And then the Blade of Magnus. Whenever he deals combat damage to player, you get to create a 3/3 red spawn token. So he can generate tokens himself, and again, it combos with the other cards that create those token creatures. There's another one here, the Pink Horror of Zinch. These guys are fun. 5 mana for a 4/4. Coruscating Flames deals 2 damage to any target whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, and then when it dies, they split into 2 blue horrors, which you can see here on the right, which also deal 1 damage whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. This is like exactly how they function on the tabletop. I actually just played a game of Age of Sigmar against Zinch, which was entirely demons, and my opponent had like 3 units of pink horrors, and they just never died because they keep splitting. And yeah, so I'm happy to see these in card form here. And then we got the Dark Apostle, which is a Chaos Space Marine, 4 mana for a 3/3. You can pay 3 mana and tap him to give a non-creature spell you cast, Cascade. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the instants and sorceries in this deck. And this is a really expensive card here. 6 mana plus an additional X to cast. It has Cascade, and it deals X plus 2 damage to each creature that didn't enter the battlefield this turn. So it doesn't hit cards you play on your turn. But it is really expensive to cast. Again, there are some cards that can reduce the cost a little bit though. We've got a number of reprint cards that were just given new artwork to fit the Chaos theme, like Dark Ritual, which is instant mana. We've got Brainstorm, helps you with the card draw. And then some more board wipes here. Decree of Pain, this is a reprint, but 8 mana to destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated, and draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. Pretty crazy card. You can also cycle it to give all creatures a -2/-2 debuff until end of turn. Blasphemous Act, very useful spell if your opponents have lots of creatures on the field. It reduces the mana cost. You can potentially play it for 1 mana and deal 13 damage to each creature. This also sets up the ultimate combo in this deck, I think. Blasphemous Act followed up by Blood for the Blood God, which is 11 mana, but it costs less for each creature that died this turn. You discard your hand, draw 8 cards, and then deal 8 damage to each opponent. And 8 is the number of Khorne. Again, this following Blasphemous Act would be absolutely brutal. You could destroy everything, deal a bunch of damage, and refill your hand all for 4 mana potentially. We got some more targeted removal. Blight Grenade. Actually, it has a little bit of both. You destroy target creature and give all creatures -3/-3. So that is 1 big grenade. You got Mandate of Abaddon, which is 4 mana to destroy all creatures with power less than 1 creature of your choice that you control. Kill, Maim, Burn. 5 mana to do one or more of 3 effects. So you can destroy an artifact, destroy a creature, and or deal 3 damage to target player. We've got Bile Blight, which gives -3/-3 to a creature and all other creatures that share the same name. So you could take out a bunch of tokens with this effect, potentially. We got a few more reprints. Bituminous Blast, 5 mana for a spell that does 4 damage to target creature and also has Cascade. And then we've also got another Cascade spell, Deny Reality, which returns a permanent to its owner's hand. Now this is a pretty fun one. This is another reprint, Chaos Warp, 3 mana to shuffle a permanent into its owner's library and then replace it with the top card of the library if it's a permanent. So you could use it on a big creature that an opponent controls, potentially bringing out a smaller one instead, or use it on one of your small creatures to maybe bring out something bigger instead, but it is random, so a little bit risky. And then we got a crazier version, Chaos Mutation. This one functions in similar fashion, but it only targets creatures, but you can choose any number of creatures, both your opponent's and yours, and then you reveal cards from the top until you reveal a creature and replace the creatures that were exiled. So this can completely alter the board state in an instant for 5 mana, so it looks like a lot of fun to use, especially if you're playing with multiple people. We've got Nurgles Conscription, 5 mana instant, which allows you to steal a creature from your opponent's graveyard and then exile the rest of their graveyard. So again, another anti-Necron card here. And then we've got Past in Flames, 4 mana sorcery, which gives all of your instants and sorceries in your graveyard flashback until end of turn. It is a little bit costly. And then we got Reverberate, which can just copy an instant or sorcery spell. Moving on to some mana-producing stuff, we've got Command Tower, again, of course, with a Chaos-themed artwork. We've got Soul Ring and Commander's Sphere, with some Chaos-themed artwork as well. We got a few Talismans here for mana generation. We've got the Wayfarer's Bauble, allowing you to search for basic land and put it on the field. We've got the Chromatic Lantern, which is nice. And the Assault Suit. This is another reprint artifact equipment that buffs one of your creatures. And then we got our non-basic lands here. So these 3 were also in the Tyranid deck. Cave of Temptation, Path of Ancestry, and Exotic Orchard. We've also got Barrenmoor and Forgotten Cave for black and red. We've got some fetch lands, Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. Temple of the False God, and a bunch of dual lands, including Choked Estuary, Foreboding Ruins, Swiftwater Cliffs, as well as Molten Slag Heap, Dismal Backwater, and Sunken Hollow. And then finally we've got the Crumbling Necropolis that can tap for blue, black, or red. So that is it for the Ruinous Powers deck. Let me know what you think. And I personally think this is going to be a really fun deck to play. Just a lot of effects with random abilities. I really like random stuff, so I think the playstyle will definitely appeal to me quite a bit. But let me know if you think they represented the forces of chaos accurately, and which cards and combos you think will be the best out of this deck. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.